Alright, Spiritborn, so let's go ahead and drop a Thorns Gorilla build. This is going to be a really fun build if you like to do Thorns damage without waiting. Normally with Thorns, you have to wait for the enemies to hit you, and then they take a set amount of damage. Now what's really cool with the Spiritborn is you're able to attack, and every single time you attack, whether you want to go ahead and run the specialization Gorilla or just run Rock Splitter, you're going to be able to deal Thorns damage on every single attack, which is great. There are tons of multipliers that I don't have in the gameplay. Keep in mind the testing that we had was really limited with this, as I wanted to try to test out all of the different builds, so I was missing just tons of multipliers here. So the build is way better than what you're seeing here in terms of gameplay. It's mostly just showing off how it works. You're going to be able to teleport. It almost reminds me of kind of like a monk play style if you ever played monk in Diablo 3, because how the skills work with the basic attacks is there's like a 1, 2, 3, and then the third one it does like this bonus. But there's a special unique called the Sempa Zontek that's going to make it so every single time you attack, it's always the third attack. So you always get the spinning attack, which is going to AoE hit everything, which is great because, well, it's going to make things clear out a lot faster. So for starters, let's go over the skills. We'll go over the spirit bonuses, as well as like the aspects and uniques and the things that you want to temper and actually go ahead and roll. Now, if you do want to level up with this build, it's not that bad because Thorns is still pretty good. However, I would really suggest you guys to run Thorns mixed in with the Quill, because it's much better in terms of adding vulnerability to the build. Otherwise, if you don't have vulnerability in any Diablo build, you simply don't deal damage. Now, you could still do vulnerable, you can still apply it, but you're going to have to get it on your rings or your amulet, or you're going to have to run the glyph, which I still think that is still okay if you want to level up with this build, but I still think that the Eagle variant is going to be much better, which I will also link down below for like leveling. This is definitely a build where you can just kind of transition into it towards like the middle-ish game, but it's going to be able to shine a lot better once you get a lot of master working done, which you'll see why in a moment here. But let's go ahead and go over the build. So for starters, Rock Splitter, that's just our basic attack. It applies Thorns, but it doesn't really deal that much damage. We might be able to get like 5-10% of our damage from this, but it's mainly with Thorns. And then we have Scourge. This applies a X multiplier of damage to crowd controlled, which is great. We're going to be able to get that on the Paragon Board. This is going to be pretty much on every single build. The Hunter is just so much better than all of them because it just gives you 100x damage to injured. And on top of that, it also gives you another bonus of giving you all your ferocity stacks, which is tied to your attack speed. Then Armored Hide, it says it gives you like X 100, but this number has actually been changed. We'll wait and see what actually becomes in the actual game once it launches, because sometimes they tell us updates, or they won't tell us updates, and it just kind of goes over. I mean, it's actually pretty crazy against bosses. I don't know why. It does some crazy damage sometimes. Keep in mind, though, you can go way higher. I had absolutely terrible gear. I'm still running so much crit on my build because, well, Thorns doesn't crit. It's just because, again, I kind of salvaged the rest of my gear and tried to build this towards the very end with the test server. And then we are also running Toxic Skin that's going to apply a huge bonus of our Thorns. There's so many like X 100 multipliers on Thorns for Spiritborn. It's ridiculous. Then Counterattack gives us Dodge. Now, Dodge in this will also give us damage, which is weird because normally with a Thorns build, you don't want to dodge because the enemy needs to hit you in order for them to take some portion of damage. So what they've done is they made it so the Spiritborn, when you get dexterity, that gives you dodge, which is a bad thing. However, there is something on the Paragon that gives you up to 100x based on your dodge, which is that's a pretty good number, right? So next up for the Spiritborn hulls, basically the specialization, we run the Gorilla. This is going to give us 100%. You could also get 100% here with the Rock Splitter. I don't know if you can actually get 200 with it. We'll have to do some more testing. If anyone knows, you guys can let me know. But I wanted to drop this build early for you guys as, well, it's coming out later today or tomorrow, depending on your time zone. So next up, we have Jaguar over here, and then this one can honestly be swapped to whatever, but Jaguar, there's just like if they take more damage from you, you can increase it. You can also run Centipede. That is another option because there's a bonus on Centipede versus like damage versus like healthy. Now, as far as the gear and aspects that you're looking for, so we're going to be running Aspect of Crowded Sage, and that's going to give us extra dodge, which gives us more HP. This build is going to be incredibly tanky, because more dodge equals more damage for our build. But I also really like it because we get not only dodge chance, but the thing that we want to get, instead of, normally you think, oh, just put Thorns on. While you're leveling, if you want to level up with this build, sure, put the Thorns on. However, you want Armor Hide active Thorns bonus, because it gives you, it says it gives you 100x, however, I believe this number is changed to 400 flat, which is crazy while you're leveling. But later down the line, this will, I guess, get a lot better in terms of the numbers. That's why I was saying, like, this build will get much better once you get, like, the multipliers, because it's pretty much one roll of Razorplate. On every single one, you can almost get another roll of Razorplate, which starts getting crazy. Again, you'll have to masterwork it on there, and maybe instead of dexterity, you can go for that. I want to see what that actual number becomes when the actual, like, you know, a final update comes out, because again, sometimes they just, like, have undocumented changes in the game, and we have to, like, kind of tweak it. So keep in mind, take anything with this video with a grain of salt, as I don't think everything has been fully tested with any build. I mean, most builds that are even coming out, they could be nerfed. But nonetheless, a Razorplate over here, obviously, is the Thorns build. And then we run something called Aspect of Plains Power. I don't have it in the gameplay over here, but how it works is you're going to have a lucky hit chance to create these circles. There's a lot of builds that will create these circles. There's actually a glyph that, like, works with this as well. But if you use a Jaguar skill, which is why I'm running Jaguar over here, you can also, like, technically run it here, but whenever we use a Jaguar skill, it's going to keep our ferocity at maximum, which is tied to our attack speed, which we don't really need it for that. We just want the damage per stack, and you can get like 12 to 13 with this build. And, well, you get an extra bonus damage over here, which is great. And then everywhere you can, you want Armor Hide, as well as the bonus to Bastion, and Bastion is tied to Thorns as well. And then we run Assimilation for more dodge, and then we can also get Thorns as a roll, and then more dodge. And then we're also getting dodge on our boots. Again, it's going to be extra survivability. Then we get the Armor Hide Thorns bonus, and then Sepa Zontek is what we're going to be running over here as well. And then we're going to be running Rapid, just so we can attack faster. The more times we're attacking, the more Thorns, right? And then same thing, we want Bastion and then Armor Hide Active Thorns bonus, which is this thing over here. And I'll get into, like, why that matters. And then the rings are pretty much the same rings. You can just look for the cooldown for, let's say, the Hunter or damage to clothes. You can get resistances here because we don't run Tyraels here. So you need to get resistances, your boots, your pants, your gloves. You can get resistances there. And then you do want chance to make enemies vulnerable in at least 2 of the slots. So you can put on 2 rings, 1 amulet could also have it as well, because your only source of vulnerability in this variant, unless you want to play Soar, which you could throw in, is going to be in this category. And then as far as it goes, I'm running Ohm and then Q. Neo got buffed over here. Basically, we're able to get the Bulwark, which gives us extra ability. I honestly don't think we really need insane amounts of survivability because it's already tanky, but it does technically give us more damage on the Paragon board based on the amount of, like, barrier that we have. And I really like the buffs to Neo, especially since we're going to get so much dodge. It's going to be really easy because, well, they're not going to deal damage to us. And then that's what we're running for the gems. Pretty much like the standard. There's nothing too special over here. But remember, we're not going to do crit, so you do not want crit in this build, even though, like, in the gameplay, I have a bunch of crit. It's because I used a bunch of my older gear here. And then, as far as it goes in terms of the skill tree, I make this one a little bit bigger so you guys can kind of see it. Let's go ahead and scroll down over here. And then we are going to be putting some points into Rock Splitter early on. Again, if you want to level up with this, go for it. But it's basically just this accelerated. So this will add, you know, also increase your Thorns, but it'll the third attack deals 100% of her Thorns to the enemies over there. And then you do need to get some points to kind of progress. When you put the points in over here, there's just extra points in this build. So you can do a little bit of damage here, but this is doubled for the third cast. So we can invest a couple points into it because it's really okay just to get a little bit more damage because there's a lot of free extra slots in here. And then we're going to get some bonus damage over here. We can get some extra damage while unhindered or unstoppable, which this thing will actually activate. And then Toxic Skin, we want to get this one. So Toxic Skin passively increases the Thorns damage to poison enemies. So you get 100x over here. And then there's another, well, it originally said 100x over here, but this is actually, I believe, 400, but you might take it with a grain of salt. Things may change. And then we're getting all of these extra, we got some extra block, and then we get some extra bonus berry in between, and then Bastion. So this is a thing that's really good. So you gain a lot of Thorns, and then while you have a barrier, you get to actually get some more damage. Then we want 5 points into counterattack. The reason why is it has a passive that just gives us a free extra 5% dodge. And we want dodge because it's going to give us more damage. And then Enhanced Scourge over here. I know I don't have the gameplay again. There's a lot of stuff that I wish I got to fully test out and get more time with it. But you want this because it's going to give you increased damage versus crowd control each time you hit an enemy. It's fantastic. It's like 50x damage. It's really nice. It's only versus crowd control though. And then dominant over here, and then resilient. It's kind of like standard. And then we get potent. We don't get this one because we don't do crit. Thorns cannot crit in the game. There used to be a way to do it with rogue. It's a really cool thing. If anyone wants to watch a really old cool build where we literally can one-shot most of the things in the game with rogue, they nerfed this back in I think season 0 or season like 1. But you're not supposed to crit with Thorns. However, if you do get a shrine, you can technically crit with Thorns. But then we're running this where when we cast an ultimate, we get a bonus over here. And then we run Supremacy, which we're going to be spamming our ultimate quite often because we put a bunch of points into it. And we also get the cooldown on the Hunter on our rings. And then we also get way more cooldown over here with Prodigy's Tempo. The other option is if you want to play adaptive stances, this is actually fine too. It's going to give you another 30% damage reduction, which is quite great to have as well. But this just gives you a bunch of extra cooldown because the more ranks that you have, and that's why we put ranks into the skill, it kind of works. If you do want to play Harlequin to get even more ranks to get more cooldown, hey, that's totally up to you as well. You can actually get cooldown reduction in your helm as well. I just feel like losing out on specifically the extra dodge because that's another multiplier in damage there. I was also thinking about Error Perdition, but that gets us like Lucky Hit, crit, which we can't really use, but we get the utility of the Armor Hide Active Thorns bonus, which is even more damage, so I wanted to go ahead and run that. As far as the Paragon Board, I wanted to go ahead and run Exploit at the start just so we can just instantly just get that. It's a quality of life thing. There's actually 5 extra points. You'll notice there's literally nothing to get. If you want to get extra armor, you can get strength, but you can just put it into any of the dexterity points. There's literally nothing to get though over here. The second one, we're getting sapping with revenge, which is pretty much on every single board. Then the rest of them, the order doesn't really matter too much. But I would say on the third one, spiny and turf is pretty good because you get all of this bonus over here to like % thorns. So you're gonna get like a huge amount of bonus. Remember, there's like 2 like 100x's, and then this one, once you use a cooldown, you get 20% of your thorns, which is great. I'm not sure if that can stack in multiple ways, but that one's really nice to have. And then this one is where you get to do more damage based on the barrier. That's why we want to run barrier. So we're gonna get Menagerist over here. So this makes it so dealing damage with any of the skills is going to increase all of the damage. The thing is that since we run the skills over here that basically automatically activate, like Toxic Skin automatically activates when enemies hit you, they're just going to get poisoned. So they're just going to take it for free. You don't even need to do anything. This you're just going to upkeep anyways, and then counter attack. Well, it's just like you're going to dodge everything, and then the passive will just kick in. So it's not like you really have to manage it, which is awesome because I like to play this game lazily sometimes, and it's just nice just to have that. But this one's definitely nice to have earlier on, so that's why almost all builds will go for this one. It's great for resources as well. Not that we need resources for this build, but yeah, that was the shield one. And then the last one over here is over here where it is you have a chance to knock down vulnerable enemies and deal increased damage to crowd-controlled enemies. So you have some sort of source to actually apply the bonus damage with one of the poison things. The skill is actually called, just to go over it real quick, it is called Scourge. So that's how you would apply that. You can also just get it on like any of the mods on like if you're tempering, you can also get it over there as well. But yeah, this is going to be the build over here. So yeah, really fun stuff. Really good if you are interested in maybe making something a little bit different, because like I said, I want to say most people will definitely be playing the Quill. I think Quill's going to be like kind of the go-to over here. And this is another thing I wanted to mention really quick is Hubris. This is something, going over all of the things. So we run Exploit, Revenge, Turf, Menagerist, and Hubris. Yeah, I guess you can see over here like where we put them in. But this is one thing to mention that is kind of important. You get to deal increased Thorns damage equal to X100 of your dodge bonus. So that's why we were going for dodge, because it's usually something that would be kind of counterproductive to the build, but the survivability will probably go crazy with this build. So if you really want a crazy tanky build where, I mean, you could literally stand still. And there's one thing over here that I needed to mention is Tormentors. So enemies who move while poisoned by you additionally take up to 250%. I was actually thinking about putting this in the amulet as well. If you want to, you can maybe go for it. Because, I mean, like, most enemies will kind of move around. So you can potentially get a huge amount. I mean, remember, you get another 50% bonus over here if you did throw it in your amulet. So that could be something to consider, but I'm not sure how it's going to work with some of the bosses, because some bosses may not move as much because they're kind of like channeling or doing something. But this could be something to consider to get even more damage with it. And I want to say, if you're doing bosses, you may not need Needle Flare. You can throw in really anything that would give you some sort of any multiplier on damage. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. Let me know your guys' thoughts. If you guys have any suggestions to improve the build, let me know down below and we'll make an update for this build. Anyways, everything will be pinned down below if you guys want the build guide. But thanks for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn that bell. And if we need to update this build because there's some sort of new discovery, that's just reality of Diablo 4's. There's usually some like double dipping, some crazy bugs, and then we'll have to update the build if we need to. I'll update you guys. Anyways, take care and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.